You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. Big news today. The LSU Tigers reportedly have their defensive line coach. Wilson Alexander was the first to report the interest. Matt Zenitz is reporting it is a done deal. Nothing as of right now, 5:03 here on this Thursday, March 6th. Nothing official from LSU, but everyone reported that this is done, that Kyle Williams, the former LSU All-American defensive lineman, Kyle Williams, is going to be named the LSU defensive line coach. So, I got a lot to say about this. It is, first of all, a very surprising hire. I don't know that there's any other way to say it, because this happened apparently very quickly. As I understand it, Kyle was in Baton Rouge to interview on Wednesday. They offered him the job, and now he's accepted it here on Thursday. So this was a very fast turnaround from where they started. I mean, follow the path here, and the coaches that we know that LSU talked to, interviewed, were in discussions with about this job. Start with Gerald Chapman. Remember, Gerald Chapman was on staff at LSU as an analyst. We kind of went through the whole thing over the weekend. Bruce Feldman reported that LSU was interested in Chapman, but that Chapman elected to stay at Florida. As I understand it, money became a sticking point there. Chapman was making just under $600K, but had a buyout north of $300,000. At Florida. And relative to what we talk about with head coaching buyouts, that might seem minuscule, but in a revenue share era, $300,000 to pay a buyout for a defensive line coach matters. And so they couldn't come to terms on that. That was part of it. So Chapman stays at Florida. On Monday, if you weren't here, and a lot of people were at Lundy Grow, whatever the case may be, we told you that Al Davis, the Missouri defensive line coach, had emerged as someone that, by all accounts, they thought they were going to get that done. But the thing we say every time with coaching hires, it's never done until it is done. Ink is dry, press release is out. Even then, sometimes it's not done. The Al Davis situation, which on Monday, it felt like that was going to happen. It went awry. Was it money? Don't know. But ultimately, that didn't come to fruition. Told you the other names that LSU had spoken with. Randall Joyner from Ole Miss. $725K a year at Ole Miss. With a big buyout, it was going to take north of $1 million. LSU didn't have the temperament to go that direction for a defensive line coach. They were willing to do it for Bo Davis because Bo is an LSU guy. He had so many supporters from Scott Woodward and Verge Osbury and Frank Wilson and people who've been around this program for a long time. And then fans and boosters, they were able to make it happen to get Bo here because that was supposed to solve your defensive line problem and give you stability and the best technical defensive line coach in the game. After 1 year, he's gone. The others that LSU talked to, Patrick Hill, who was an analyst at LSU in 2022, spent the past couple seasons as an assistant defensive line coach of the Vikings. Brandon Dedrick, young guy, played in the NFL, spent the last 2 years as an analyst at Ole Miss, just got hired as the defensive line coach at Southern Miss. South Carolina defensive line coach Travian Robertson. I guess my point is, all of those names would have been very underwhelming. So I almost look at it to say you're balancing if you're not going to go spend to make the big splash hire, which is okay, by the way. I think, honestly, that's one of the piece of feedback I get from a lot of fans sometimes is sometimes Scott Woodward spends too much to go too in for the big splash hire. I don't think that's a bad thing, personally, but if you're not going to do that, then you're weighing hires that maybe aren't going to be the big splash and what does matter. So if I look at this and I go, would you rather someone like Patrick Hill, who played in the NFL, was at LSU as an analyst for 1 year, in the last 2 years as an assistant defensive line coach with the Vikings, or a former All-American who played at LSU, who's from Louisiana, from Ruston, was on the 2003 National Championship team, played 13 years in the NFL. And oh, by the way, financially, you can make this work as well for Kyle Williams, a guy who in his career Kyle Williams' career earnings in the NFL is $57.2 million. I don't think Kyle's going to rake you over the coals here for the difference between $500K, $600K. I don't know what the number is. I have no idea what the number is. My point is, I don't think you're approaching 1-2. You know what I mean? So it is surprising. It's surprising that you're hiring a guy that has no college coaching experience. And it's also surprising because Kyle Williams, who'd been the DC at Ruston, his alma mater, since 2020. Look, we've had Kyle on the show. You know, he finished his 13-year NFL career, went back to Ruston, guy plays golf every day. He's a great golfer, by the way. He said before, like, he would be a professional golfer. Like, he would, if he did play football, he would try to be a professional golfer. So coaching at his alma mater as an assistant, playing golf every day. You know, he's got his daughters, I think, are like really good soccer players. So as I understand it, one of the reasons that he left coaching with Ruston after this season, you know, they played in the Dome, they lost to Central in the state championship game. One of the reasons that he left was, I think, you know, as I understand it, again, I haven't spoken to Kyle, but again, so I have this secondhand, was maybe wanting to step away from coaching to be able to watch his daughters play, you know, travel, play more golf, all that stuff. This is a big role to take on, right? I guess maybe it's a different thing when your alma mater comes calling and it's the LSU defensive line job. It's also interesting because Kyle has never recruited. Like, that is part of it. Now, I also think that one of the reasons this makes sense is because recruiting has probably never mattered less. So I'm not trying to be contradictory, but as we think of like one of the big selling points of Bo Davis, great recruiter, right? Not only the best technical defensive line coach, but a great recruiter. Well, as we've seen, like, Jakeem Stewart got out of the state. Why? Because USC gave him $2 million a year. So how, like, you can be the greatest recruiter. Look at the Bryce Underwood situation. We all know, I mean, you could do an awesome job recruiting, but if someone comes in, drops a bag on somebody, all your recruiting work is for naught. So maybe because NIL matters more than recruiting in so many instances, we need to de-emphasize what we think about recruiting as far as an asset, you know, as you're putting the ledger of pros and cons for a hire. I do think, in theory, this should provide stability. A guy that from Louisiana, played at LSU, loves LSU. I mean, I also don't know, again, haven't had this conversation with Kyle Williams, but I don't know what his coaching ambitions are. Does he want to try to be a college head coach or an NFL coach? What? Maybe. But here recently, he's a guy that for the last 4 or 5 years has been coaching at his alma mater, playing a lot of golf, which is a good gig, man. It's awesome. It's great life. Congrats. You've earned it. 13 years in the NFL, made $57.2 million his career earnings. Actual number here, according to the SpoTrack, Kyle Williams' career earnings, $57.228 million for Kyle Williams. Like, awesome. That's a big old number. You can live comfortably the rest of your life for that. So do you want to jump into the NIL game, all that sort of stuff? That's a question Kyle Williams will have to answer. I'm sure we'll answer eventually. But I will say this. If you're looking at a technical defensive line coach, someone who will come here and coach your defensive linemen, technically, few better, man. All-American, 13 years in the NFL, Pro Bowler. Dude has the skins on the wall, man, and that is undeniable. He walks into a room, all those dudes listen because he has been where they want to go, every one of them. And that's pretty stinking cool. We had Ahmad Breaux on AFR. Remember, Ahmad Breaux just finished his freshman season at LSU. Ahmad Breaux played for Kyle Williams at Ruston. Now, he's a defensive end, came here, and they put weight on him. Remember, he had the funny line about what his Whataburger order was and all that stuff. They put weight on him, converted him to defensive tackle. Well, he was coached by Kyle Williams at Ruston. This is what Ahmad Breaux said on AFR about Kyle Williams.
And Coach Kyle, he's taught me more about being a man than anything. Bringing high energy to whatever you do, especially on the field, and ultimately not giving in to what your body wants to do, which is to quit when things get hard. And I really developed that since I've been stepped on foot on the campus with them.
Great perspective, man. From a guy in Ahmad, Breaux, who's from Louisiana, played at Ruston for Kyle Williams, now will play for Kyle Williams at LSU. Kyle Williams, LSU's defensive line coach. Again, if you're just joining us, came together quickly. Apparently, Kyle was in Baton Rouge on Wednesday to interview. They offered him the job, and he accepted it here on Thursday. And Kyle Williams will be the LSU defensive line coach. And Tigers hit the practice field Saturday. First time we all presume Kyle will be out there. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.